When Michael and I first met, we were 12-year-olds, maybe just into long trousers. 1951, he started his second year as a boarder at Reading School. I, a later arrived new boy. At that age, it doesn't take long. This boy, I knew, was bright. 63 years on, I go back to friends from those years, and one phrase is instant. Michael was the cleverest boy in school. Being the creme de la creme does not, of course, guarantee a lad friends, let alone friends of 60 years standing. And Michael had friends. True, one of the closest and longest adds, affectionately, the cleverest boy, and didn't mind letting everyone know it. But come on, if you're persistently top of the class or thereabouts, if you turn out to have wider reading, broader cultural reference, faster uptake, hard to stop everyone knowing it. Frankly, in those 6 years, I learned a lot from him. But young Michael was also fun, easy company, disputatious, possessed of a sometimes teasing sense of humour, and ready to take part even in those activities that were not his natural habitat. A word about the school. A foundation now nearly 900 years old, housed behind a handsome Victorian facade whose broad terrace overlooks a sports field able to hold 3 rugby pitches, with a fully kitted out scorer's box for the cricket season. But very much a school for the town. At this point, post the 44 Education Act, Reading's main grammar school, with an unusual mix of 500 odd day boys and 120 of us boarders. A school with a wide range of extracurricular activities, drama, debating, music, and a combined cadet force with its own sergeant major on the staff. One also where, come the spring, the headmaster expected to go regularly into assembly to congratulate the latest pupils on their scholarships to the best universities. Michael wasn't built for sport. A friend recalls watching the cricket from the terrace with him and wishing we were any good at games like that and so would be better thought of. But he still got involved. That scorer's box had the best view on the field. Michael became the first 11's arch recorder of dot balls and wicket meetings. Neither was he by temperament a military man, yet he was very dapper in his CCF uniform and drilled and fired Bren guns with the best. By contrast, in the art room, where the teacher, Harry Weinberger, had escaped the Nazis in '39 and went back to fight them, Michael found a cultural home. But if he excelled in class, picking up the sixth form prizes as they came and went, it wasn't always without a struggle. He had an eye on reading classics of Oxford, but the school couldn't offer classical Greek to that standard. Michael was adamant. So he duly joined the classes at Bradfield College, the rival place up the road. Came the A-level results. Wolfer's M, top grade in everything, except Greek. Grade 2. Outrage. The school must protest. Justice must be done. Wolfer's M, grade 1. Clever, determined Michael. The scholarship followed. A couple of personal footnotes, if you allow. The end of national service had been announced, but the universities were still unscrambling their system of offering men places 2 years after school leave. The younger boys in our year could escape the draft. For us, his birthday September, mine October, duty called. Off we march. But a year later, we found ourselves at the opposite end of Germany, here in Berlin, I near the Dutch border. Michael it was who found a way for us to meet up again, my end. and then Oxford. I literally owe my career to Michael Wolfers. Towards the end of our second year, I was deeply involved in things theatric. Michael was theatre critic of the university newspaper and regarded by us theatricals as an embryonic Ken Tynan. We bumped into each other one afternoon. "Ah," quoth he, "I'm finishing my term at Charlton. The editors asked me if I've got any ideas for a replacement. How do you feel about it?" The offer you can't refuse. Though it did come with a little lecture about theatre criticism being about the ideas and not just the histrionics. Then that Charlton spell reawakened thoughts about journalism in me, dormant since school days. 6 months later, I landed a place on one of the 3 best graduate training schemes in the country, in Liverpool, on my way. Fast forward to the 21st century. A bunch of 50s vintage old reading agencies start a reunion lunch, which turns into an annual event. Michael was a regular, often timing his visits from Africa so that he could be with us. It was there, just a couple of years ago, that I discovered Michael Wolfers had missed out on Liverpool. But the Westminster Press scheme had snapped him up. Started in Darlington, on the North Deco, under Harry Evans, young, thrusty, independent, heading to be the most brilliant editor of several generations. I know which I'd have chosen. Next stop Oxford, then the Times, then Africa. Clever Michael. I miss him.
No, he was so clever.
Yeah, I want to.
I'm always left alone. What kind I first met Michael 56 years ago. It was a party to launch the new Oxford undergraduate magazine called The Oxford Individual. It was at the very Grand College of Christchurch, built by Cardinal Wolsey, and was peopled by would-be and many who later became journalists, politicians, writers, publishers, media men, or merely slouched back to their estates. At that time, it was a tribe I had not encountered. I'd been quite content in Wadham College with friends, principally Alan Blakely, of course, whom I met on my first day there. Michael later and gleefully told me he'd fixed my invitation, and I remember that rather gilded brideshead occasion very clearly. We often referred back to it. Oxford was his touchstone. I remember also that we had to rush back, I wouldn't say race, he wasn't a runner, through the emptying streets of Oxford that night to get into the college before the gates closed at 10 p.m. This was 1959. The streets were shadowed with fleeing, furtive young men, many of whom had done national service like Michael, some of whom were engaged in war in Malaysia and West Africa, but all of them fled before the march of the bulldogs. Stout college servants, men in bowler hats with knobbly sticks, whose job was to catch those who dared to stay out of 10 p.m. when it was feared sin began. If you were caught, you were fined or gated. Golden days. Michael had a ground floor front room in Wadham and cunningly left the window open. It became the passage for many of us to a sort of priest's hole. We crawled in there at about 11 o'clock, neither of us the worse for wear with alcohol, but nevertheless up for talking until about 5 or 6 a.m. This night out conversation was common to Michael, I learned later, but rather giddyingly new to me. It was my initiation into the exhausting ritual of all-night discussions thought to be indispensable to a rounded university education. Michael was a star night talker. I remember, as it turned out rightly, as I shuffled across the empty court, just meeting the dawn, or as I think I remember, that something had changed in my life, and it had. It was the arrival of what became a lasting friendship. Just as Alan Blakely had fixed Michael up with a job at Charwell, the university newspaper that Peter referred to, so Michael fixed me up as its film critic. This led directly to my eventually making a film at Oxford and feeling confident enough from then on to steer myself in the direction of writing and filmmaking. I always thought I owed him a lot. He unlocked the key to the door. Michael's arrival and many subsequent arrivals at our house when we lived in Kew and then in Hampstead were always the same. He brought his own weather with him. It was breezy, sunny and smiling. It would be a good day. The three things that Michael most enjoyed were conversation, conversation and conversation. His range was remarkable, erudite, detailed and genuine and generous in the sharing. His commitment to left-wing politics was lifelong and unshakable, well-informed and active. This was a time of the Aldermaster marches, and so we did behind a jazz band, and I think Bertrand Russell and Michael Foote. This was a time when a Labour government promised in future to change society, and to some extent it did. But we also talked about books, and perhaps the theatre, and films, on and on it went. But much about Africa. Even then, we were initiating members of the new big society which grew then in Oxford called JACARI, the Joint Action Committee of Racial Intolerance. And we raised money to bring a student from Africa over to Oxford. He came to Wadham College and used to come and spend some holidays at my house, Jetty Manor. Africa became his spiritual home as he commuted between Waterloo and Ghana. He became friends with my children and they loved to see him. He was part of the round of our lives, at parties and celebrations, whether at home or in television events. He was uncannily up to date with politics and what comes to be called the higher gossip. He was playful yet serious. He was never malicious. His death was blessedly sudden and is with people with whom he felt happy. It was characteristic of Michael that he pointed out that in that very small company we were, 5 of us, had been exact contemporaries at Oxford, where he'd shone as an Oxford individual then, and he continued to shine ever since.
So I'm sort of representing the African side of Michael, and I must say, because of my incompetence, there are not more Africans here, because I swore I would send notices to all the African newspapers. Luckily I didn't, because there wouldn't have been much room in the church for anything else if I had really spent my time telling Africans that Michael had died. What I did do was to send in, apart from me, there's Ahmed Shahi and Anne who represent Sudan for him. And I did send an email to Polly Gaster, who was more efficient than me. Immediately she sent to, as you know, Michael had this great, the time that he spent in Mozambique and Angola and working for Frelimo and in England were a most important part of his life. So immediately we got messages back saying, okay, Agostinho Neto's daughter has promised to make sure that all the Angolan newspapers will know. Here is a letter from the Angolan ambassador in Ghana saying, Dear Andrew, it was with deep sorrow that I learnt of the death of Michael Wolfers, a good friend of Angola and dear friend of the Embassy of Angola in Ghana. May the thoughts and prayers of all the staff at the Embassy of Angola in Ghana reach out to the family, colleagues and friends of this time of sadness and mourning. And here's a nice message from, I speak loud because I'm a bit deaf, I'm pretty deaf myself, from Polly, which is so nice we thought we'd bring it out. Dear Michael, as good Africans we believe in spirits, and we're sure your spirit will be online to pick up this note. Shortly before you left us, you had added a like to a photo of Polly and Julie with our Mozambican family on Julie's Facebook page. Comrade and friend for decades, not least when working together with Pam, Paul and Polly in the Committee for Freedom in Mozambique, Angola and Guinea in the late 60s and early 70s. And later, after your intense and intensive Angola experience, when you came to independent Mozambique as a cooperante, enduring friendships were forged with all of us. We were all pleased to see you at Polly's birthday party in London a couple of months ago. Some of the words that come to mind when thinking of you are loyal, kind, helpful, sociable, caring, busy, professional. In London, you managed to squeeze that editorial about Amilcar Cabral into the Times on a Sunday night. Here you work